What is the cross products property? This property deals with proportions, so let's go ahead and start there. Let's first do a little bit of exploring with a proportion and see what we come up with. So we need a proportion. Well, a proportion is an equation where two ratios or fractions are equal. So let's say we have these equivalent fractions, 2/5 and 4/10. These fractions have the same value. They're equal to one another. So here, this is a true statement. This is a proportion. Now, what if we play around with this a little bit? What if we don't want to have these fractions in our equation? Well, let's get rid of them. A fraction is just another way to write a division. So 2/5 is the same thing as saying 2 divided by 5. Well, if we're dividing by 5 over here and we want to get rid of that, we just need to perform the opposite operation. So instead of division, we want to use multiplication. So here we can apply the multiplication property of equality and multiply by 5 on each side of our equation. Over here, these 5's cancel out and we're left with 2. Over on the other side, we have 5 times the fraction 4/10. Well, here we still have another fraction, so let's get rid of that. Well, here we're dividing by 10. So if we want to get rid of it, we can again apply the multiplication property of equality and multiply both sides of our equation by 10. That means that over here we'll get 2 times 10, and over here these 10's go away, and we just get 5 times 4. 2 times 10 is 20, 5 times 4 is 20, and we end up with this true statement. Now that makes sense if we think about it. We started with a true statement, and using the multiplication property of equality, we kept a true statement all the way down to here. Neat. Now let's take a closer look at this problem. Check out this line. Here we have 2 times 10 equals 5 times 4. Now if we take a look back at our original problem, here we have 2 and here we have 10. Here we have 5 and here we have 4. Now it looks like we could just take the numerator of this fraction times the denominator of this fraction, and we'll get 2 times 10. And if we take the denominator of this fraction times the numerator of this fraction, we'll get 5 times 4. That's a neat trick. We could go straight from our original problem down to this line without all this extra work. Neat trick. And you know, this trick will work for any proportion. That is what the cross products property is all about. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. The cross products property states that for a proportion, the cross products are equal. That's exactly what we're showing here. These are the cross products. Now let's take a look at that in general. Say we have A over B equals C over D. So we have a proportion. Well, the cross products property states that we can take this numerator times this denominator, so A times D, and set that equal to the denominator of this fraction times the numerator of this fraction, B times C, and that's a true statement. Neat. Now, the act of actually carrying out the cross products property is called cross multiplication. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at that. And to help us see cross multiplication, let's take a look back at our original problem. 2 over 5 equals 4 over 10. Now, when we cross multiply, we multiply the means and extremes of a proportion and set them equal. If we take a look at this proportion, 2 and 10, the first set of numbers we multiply together, are called the means of this proportion. And 5 and 4, the second set of numbers we multiply together, are called the extremes of the proportion. That's why the cross products property is sometimes referred to as the means extremes property of proportions. Since we take the means and multiply those together and set it equal to the product of the extremes. When we do that, we're performing cross multiplication. Here again, we have 2 times 10, which is 20, and 5 times 4, which is 20, getting the same thing we got over here, but with a lot less work. But why is the cross products property so important? How does it help us? Well, let's say that we have this proportion here, and we want to solve for x. Without the cross products property, we would have to go through all these steps like we did before to get rid of each of those denominators. But using the cross products property, we can cross multiply and quickly turn this into an equation that's a bit more manageable. So here we have x plus 5 over 20 equals 3 over 4. Following the cross products property, we can cross multiply. We can find the product of the means, so this numerator times this denominator, and we get x plus 5 times 4, remembering to put x plus 5 in parentheses since we're multiplying that entire quantity by 4, and we can set that equal to the product of the extremes. This denominator times this numerator, 20 times 3. And we come up with an equation that's a little bit easier to solve. And we did all that because of the cross products property. And we were able to skip all of this work getting rid of the denominators. We just did it all in one step. So the cross products property can come in real handy when you're trying to solve different proportions.